can you tell the difference between a hot tear and a cold tear?
Well, a hot tear will usually leave a straight band around the perimeter or follow the circumference of the tire in this direction. So this wear pattern, this band, will obviously be hopefully a consistent difference. Like the MV, that came up and down in a wave pattern. So we know that the shock rebound-wise is actually pretty good because there's a small scalloped edge here. A hot tear will always come and have this clear band and then go into the center of the tire.
Oh, the tear
characteristic
is going like this.
Yeah, so this tire is gaining too much tire pressure, and it's actually tearing into the middle of the tire and melting the tire. As it melts, it's going to follow centrifugal force and go into the middle of the tire.
And so a cold tear pattern goes the other way?
A cold tear pattern looks like a fingernail shape. It's a half moon, and it will cut immediately up to 1 millimeter into the tire within 10 minutes. And hopefully we can find a cold tear here today and look at that. But these are two completely different wear patterns. This can also be confusing because it does also represent an incorrect spring. So what we'd have to do is measure the sag on this bike, make sure the sag's in the ballpark. That eliminates the spring from the equation, and then we know
hot tear.
It's a hot tear. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's what it's all about in this instance. We have two problems. We got a rebound problem, clear as day, because we've seen that all day long here. And here we have a cold tear problem. In some places it's worse because as the wheel rotates, there's load coming on and off. So this section is really bad.
Now, when you're saying like that one right there fits my nail right there,
and it digs into the tire.
Into the tire right
and it's
there.
Always with your finger pointed this way.
Okay.
You'll never see a cold tear going this way.
All right.
Because that's a hot tear goes into the center of the tire. A cold tear is the tire's overinflated, cannot reach proper operating temperature, and then starts to rip itself apart, literally like somebody's put a pair of tweezers into it and pulled it out. Now this isn't that bad. It's probably ½ a pound off. A really good cold tear, and we're going over to Michelin at lunchtime to see what they've got in the rack and go through the rack, will be at least a full fingernail size and about 1 millimeter deep. It'd be horrible to look at. But parts of this debris field is from this cold tear.
Okay, so you got to get rid of the cold tear first to really begin to understand what's going on underneath.
And we've gone up, what, 15 degrees from this morning at least?
At least.
So we would see by 1 o'clock.
Probably it was worse the session before, and it's gotten a little better.
Well, he's only been out once.
Oh, okay.
So this is from his first session. Depending on what compound this is, if it's a PR4 or 5, like I said, Michelin's are sensitive to ½ a pound of pressure.
Okay.
But in this instance, as we warm up through the day, this will disappear, and it'll just be left with a rebound problem in the back.
Problems. Okay.
There is a cold tear here, but it's not very evident. It's very fine, very slight. See what I mean by a fingernail shape?
Right.
But this tire is probably 1/4 to ½ a pound too inflated. But the day's going to warm up, this will disappear completely. This one was another hot tear, but it started as a cold tear. So the pressure was just shy, so you could dig into the tire.
Right.
But then as the day went on, it took out some of that and then was too low and turned into a hot tear. So this tire went from being overinflated to underinflated during one day. Just by looking at remember the finger shape mark?
Yeah.
But then the 45 coming into the middle of the tire. So the pressure differential where this was set for the morning was wrong, and then the way the ambient temperature changed throughout the day, especially with the track temperature, it got to be too soft. That's why Michelin's are sensitive to ½ a pound. You've got to track it constantly. And if you do, they're a great tire, works great, but you've got to keep really on top of data.
So you as the day progresses, then you're saying with the Michelins, you've got to
watch your
tire, watch what's doing, and then change the pressure.
Yeah. So on this one, what we've got
now, this is a front.
This is a front. We've got a tear that follows the circumference of the tire, and you can see it really it radiates a little bit into the middle.
Yeah.
So what's going on here with this particular motorcycle? There's too much weight on the front wheel. This tear is caused by the front end being too soft, the back end being too high, So when it goes into the corner, it plows or stalls and then goes. Once the weight goes back away from the front wheel. So a geometry tear.
The entire time it's up in the air, it's causing this tear.
Yeah, the back is forcing all the weight onto the front tire. The front tire collapses, the sidewall goes, and you've got this wear pattern where it shows the front tire is physically sliding on the ground. Now, it's very slight, and the rider probably had no clue of what was going on, because the transfer between the tire stalling on corner entry and turning was probably 0.2 of a second, and they're busy looking at their apex or going beyond to see where the next corner is, so they wouldn't even have felt this. So anytime you see a tear like this that follows the circumference of the tire, it's probably 5 millimeters wide, it's a geometry tear, saying there's too much weight on the front tire.
Okay.
So again, with any tire, no matter what the brand is, look at your tire. If there's even wear across it, everything's good. If it disfigures in any way, you've got a problem. Find out what the problem is and fix it. This didn't have a tire pressure problem at all, it's all geometry. And you can see from the two sides, slow entry here, so not very much disfiguration. Huge entry on this side. Given the direction of the tire,
it's probably on the left side.
Left side, yep.
Because this is a counterclockwise track.
So most of the load is on this side of the tire,
Right.
hence the width of the band and disfiguration.
And
So this is actually physically the oil in the tire that keeps it fluid bleeding out of the tire. So every time you heat cycle a tire, the oil comes to the surface. Because of that, what will happen is it'll change color like this. The more you go through the heat cycles, the more the oil bleeds out of the tire, the harder it gets. So in this instance, you put your fingernail in it, it's supposed to spring straight back out and not leave an imprint. It's still there. So this tire's been through plenty of heat cycles. And we can see it's got some chronic conditions on it. We got a tear problem, and we have a massive rebound problem here. Probably the most pronounced of the day.
Now these tires were from school.
So this rider was probably way overweight for the bike. Because of that, put way too much stress on the spring. Because of that, and the inadequacy of the rebound adjustment, gave this tire wear pattern. And if you look, it's even on the top of the tire where the thing was bouncing down the road.
Oh, so it's bouncing, grip
Grip
up in the
gone.
air, grip up in the air, grip up in the air.
So this was somebody way overweight for the bike. So it's completely and utterly out of adjustment and dangerous at that point.